Life for All presents Daily Food Series, Galatians, the Only Gospel, the Gospel of Christ. Title of Book 5, The Cross, the Landmark of the Dispensation of Faith, by Pedro. Week 2, The Pressure of Those Who Defend Circumcision in Order Not to be Persecuted. Tuesday, they were all filled with the Holy Spirit. Read with prayer. Therefore, let all the house of Israel know assuredly that God has made this Jesus, whom you crucified, both Lord and Christ. Acts chapter 2, verse 36. The church received the power of the Holy Spirit to carry out God's work. In Acts, it is written, when the day of Pentecost was fully come, they were all with one accord in one place. And suddenly there came a sound from heaven, as of a rushing mighty wind, and it filled the whole house where they were sitting. Then there appeared to them divided tongues as of fire, and one sat upon each of them. And they were filled with the Holy Spirit and began to speak with other tongues, as the Spirit gave them utterance. Chapter 2, verses 1 through 4. This is the result of the work of the Holy Spirit. It is no different today. When we are filled with the Spirit, we're able to do God's work. As described in the 2nd chapter of Acts, the Holy Spirit gave those gathered in Jerusalem the ability to speak in other languages so that they could preach the gospel of Christ to the Jews who had come from other nations for the feast of Pentecost in Jerusalem. Acts chapter 2, verses 6 and 7. It is as if the apostles suddenly began to speak in Spanish, English, French, German, etc., without even having studied these languages. It was by the power of the Spirit that they proclaimed the greatness of God in different languages, because God desired to reach everyone. Acts chapter 2, verses 8 through 11. Given the perplexity of the people, Peter stood up with 11 and asked them to pay attention to his words. In his first speech, Peter spoke about Christ's death and resurrection, and this made it clear that the central point of his preaching was not circumcision or the Mosaic law. From then on, a new dispensation began, and it was characterized by the powerful work of the Spirit on the church. However, for this to happen, Christ had to die and rise again. Peter affirmed that Jesus had done extraordinary things that only God could do, and they had witnessed this. Acts chapter 2, verses 22 and 23. It is like saying, you killed him because God allowed it. It was according to his foreknowledge that he handed Jesus over. If that were not the case, you would not have had the authority to crucify him. Since you did not want to dirty your hands, you used the hands of the Romans to kill him, whom God raised up, having loosed the pains of death, because it was impossible for him to be held by it. Acts chapter 2, verse 24. Death could not hold Jesus. Acts chapter 2, verses 25 to 30. David reigned and died. He was a prophet, and as such, spoke for God in the old dispensation. With the new dispensation came the enthronement of Christ, who is king on David's throne. The outpouring of the Spirit, which took place on the day of Pentecost, is proof that God had resurrected Jesus, who was exalted to his right hand. It was for this reason that the church received power. Jesus is seated at the right hand of God the Father and is waiting for all of his enemies to be put under his feet. Moreover, God will achieve his purpose through his church. Acts chapter 2, verses 34 and 35. Therefore, do not think that we are in the church to sit back and listen to good messages. No, we are here to work. We reaffirm, God the Father will use the church to put all of his enemies under the feet of his Son. Those who resist Christ's headship will be put under his feet. This is our responsibility. When that happens, Christ will return. Until that happens, we are here in the church to do God's work, not by our ability, but by the Holy Spirit. Peter also affirmed, therefore, let all the house of Israel know assuredly that God has made this Jesus, whom you crucified, both Lord and Christ. Acts chapter 2, verse 36. He is the Lord over all things. Ephesians chapter 1, verses 20 and 21. Christ is at the top. God made him Lord and Christ over all things and gave him to the church, precisely so the church could put all things under his feet. It has no power to do this on its own, but it has received the power and authority of the Holy Spirit to carry out this work.